Sometimes there's a movie that's just so good that there has to be a sequel. And you can probably think of some of those sequels that you like. I've got a list that I'm going to share with you a little bit on Sunday. But there are also some sequels that just did not need to be made. The first movie was great. Producer, director said, let's do it again. And they get together and it just doesn't have the magic, just doesn't hit. Chemistry's not there. And the thing just didn't really need to be made. We're going to start this Sunday talking about a sequel to one of the Gospels. Luke is a gospel that Dr. Luke writes to tell us the story of Jesus. He tells us about how he heals people and helps people and teaches people. And then he writes the book of Acts, same author. And the book of Acts, we typically say, is a history of the church. It's what the early church did. But that's not entirely telling the whole story. If you look at Acts 1, verse 1, you're going to read this phrase. The former account I wrote to tell you all that Jesus began to do and teach. Well, the implication there is that Jesus began to do the work in the Gospel of Luke, and the book of Acts is not just a story of the early church and their actions. It's a story of what Jesus continued to do and to teach through his people. And so as we study through the book of Acts for a few weeks, we're going to talk about how Jesus worked through people like Peter, people like Paul, people like John Mark, people like Barnabas, all these early Christians who did incredible things in the 28 chapters in the book of Acts. But if you're paying attention and you know a little bit about the book of Acts, you know that there are 28 chapters. And so Acts 1 through 28 is about all that Jesus continued to do and teach through the early church. I'm entitling this series Acts 29 because the story of Jesus is not over when the book of Acts ends. The story is really left unfinished. And so what matters at this point is not so much what Jesus continued to do through Peter or what Jesus continued to teach through Paul. The real question we're going to ask and be confronted with, I think, every week is what is Jesus going to continue to do through me? What am I going to allow Jesus to continue to teach people through my life and through my actions and through the words that I share with people? Acts is a sequel, but it's the middle part. Sometimes there's a Toy Story 1, a Toy Story 2, a Toy Story 3, and then it keeps going. And that's Christianity. There's what Jesus did in his physical life. There's what Jesus continued to do in the history of the early church contained in the book of Acts. And there's the question of, what's Act 3 in this? What am I going to do? What's my life going to look like? Will I allow Jesus to continue to do and teach based on what I do, what I say, and how I live? I hope you can make it Sunday. We're going to have a great day. We're going to talk about how Jesus' work did not end when he went to the cross, how it continues through his people, like Peter, like Paul, like me, and like you. See you Sunday.